Hey guys, my name is Christian. I work with Ignition Accessories LLC, and today I'll be working on a 2006 Chevy Silverado. I'll be adding a Black Suede Headliner fabric to this vehicle, along with a 1,000-piece Starlight kit and a shooting star kit. And I'm going to be documenting every step along the way, just to show you guys how it's done. So I'm going to break it down super simple. I'm going to show you the tools that we need. I'll show you the proper way to remove it and how to install it back in. Yeah. To get started, you just need some basic hand tools that I'll walk you through right now. Alright, so here's what I'm working with. So first we got a basic socket set, and then we have some flatheads and a bunch of random tools here that you'll find pretty useful. Some small flatheads, a needle nose plier. All this stuff we'll be using later on for the Starlight portion, but this is pretty much everything I'm working with. Here's the Starlights, the Black Suedes over there. Yeah, I'll break it down super simple for you guys. Alright, so the first step we're going to do is we're going to remove this passenger and driver sun visors. And so when we open this up, we're going to look over here at these three holes, and we see that it is a small star screw. And so we're going to use this tool to remove those. So as you can see, I started to take that screw out with this tool. And it's not necessary, but it's nice to have a little magnetic bowl to put all the screws in. So I'm going to go ahead and take out all the screws and take these pieces off, and I'll show you the next step. One tip when you're removing this, make sure it's connected here, so when you're loosening it up, it doesn't wobble everywhere right here, and it's kind of hard to remove, so you just kind of clip it in and remove that screw. Alright, so this one was not attached to any electrical power, so there's no worry about that, but if yours does include electrical, you just unclip it and it should come right out. And I just have a box right here to put all the interior trim in so I don't lose them. So the screw for the sun visor was a star tool. The size for it was a CRVT10, and the size for the screw for the clip right here was a little larger than the sun visor one, and that one was a CRVT15. Now that I got this removed, I'm going to remove that one now, and it's the same thing. It's just these two screws, the CRVT10, and this one's going to be the CRVT15. And I'm just putting the screws in here. Alright, I got those removed, and then just for another comparison, here is the screw for the sun visor, and then the screw for the sun visor clip. So it's a little shorter for the clip, and then here's the heads. So smaller star for the sun visor, and then the larger one for the clip. Alright, so to remove the center console, there is electrical power connected to it, so I'll show you how to remove those clip units. And then there's going to be two clips holding it up, and then one screw on the rear. To remove the screw, all you're going to need is a Phillips screwdriver to remove it. And then to remove the clips, or to unclip the clips, it's nice to have a little pry tool to remove it, but also you can probably just pull on it if you don't have those. So I'll show you how that's done. So first we're going to remove this screw right here. And it looks like that. Just normal screw. And then to remove these two clips, you just get your pry tool, get underneath here, and you just come right out. Yeah, once again on this side, there's gonna be a clip right here. You gotta get your pry tool underneath and just remove it, and it comes right out. So on the interior, this is what it looks like. There's one major wire connecting to this, and then another wire connecting right here. And so it's super easy to remove these clips. I'll show you how to do that right now. First of all, this clip can be removed by hand, and so how that's done is you kind of just slide this right off. It should come off like that. In this case, I don't really need to remove this clip, but for your vehicle you might, so I'll show you how to do that real quick. All you need is a small flathead, and that should do the trick. So what you're going to do is get your flathead right underneath that tab and lift it up, and then pull on this at the same time. So here's what that looks like. So it's just going to slide right back in. which I'll probably disconnect it right now. So this is how it connects. If it'll load, there it goes. So all you're gonna do is just push it back. And so that tab, just pull it up and disconnect it there. And I'll show you how to disconnect this one now. This is the same thing. You're just gonna get your flathead and lift that tab up and just pull on it. So I'll try to do that while showing you guys. So just getting that flathead and lifting that tab up, just like that. And then kind of just pulling it a little bit. It should come right out, just like that. All right, so now that you get your sun visor off and the center console, we're just gonna remove this mirror real quick, and this one should be super, super easy. All you gotta do for this one is just kind of pull it off, and it comes right off like that. And then for this clip, you're gonna have to remove it. Just put a flathead and push that tab down, and it should come right out. Just pulling this down. So actually for the mirror, you don't need a flathead. You can do it with your finger. It depends on the mirror that you have, but for this one, I can just push it down with my finger and just pulling it after. Just like that, it should be removed. Now that the sun visors are removed, the center console and the mirror, this little speaker right here can stay because there's no fasteners directly to the headliner, so you can remove that when you remove the headliner, so you don't have to worry about that. So now we're gonna move on to these handles, which this vehicle there's only one, so I'll show you how to do that real quick. So for this kind of handle, there's gonna be 2 tabs that you have to remove. So you just go on the inside with the small flathead and kind of wiggle your way in and just pry it open. And you should be able to take it off. And there's no screw, this is the tab, and that's all you gotta do. And just do the same thing for both sides. So going from the inside, kind of wiggle your way in and remove this tab. Super, super simple. And with that removed, the whole thing should just be able to come out like this. You just gotta give it a little quick tug on it. And now it's removed from the headliner, and so that's all you gotta do. And we can remove the rest of it when we remove the headliner. Now everything's done in the front. Now we're gonna go and remove this center light. So for this light, the only attachments, fasteners that hold it up is just some clips. So we're gonna use our pry tool and jam it in and unclip it. All right, I'll show you how it's done. So first you get a little pry tool and you just get it underneath, just like that, to make a little opening. And then you use this and kind of load it to the side and kind of just take the thing out, and it should come out like that. So it's attached with 2 handles like that, so it should slide out like that. So here's how the mirror looks like. It's gonna have 2 arms that go inside like that, and then 1 wire connecting. And to remove it, it's the same thing as the clip in the front. You're just gonna get your small flathead, which I have right here, and you're gonna go on this tab and you're just gonna lift it up. Let's see if I can do it. And that should allow it to get out free. Let's see. Just like that. Now with all of that removed, the only thing that's left is these 2 clips in the back. All right, to remove these 2 clips, all you're gonna need is this pry tool, or even that blue one works too, but this is what this tool is meant for. So all you're gonna do is just get underneath it and just give them a gentle squeeze. And it should come right out. Same thing for this one, kind of just get underneath, just wiggle it so you get a good hold around the surrounding, and you just give them a good clamp. All right, now that you have all the trim removed, now we're gonna remove these side pillars, which they're all just clipped in. So same thing, you just use this into your trim tool and kind of pry it open. So what I'm gonna do is create a small opening and get my pry tool in there and just give them. It should just come off. Pretty simple. And the whole thing should come off. Here I have some wires, but yeah. Here's what the inside looks like. It looks like there's already been some damage, but it just goes into that little square or the hexagon hole, and that's how it's attached to that singular clip-on. And so same thing for that, and I'll show you to do the side ones in a second. Same thing. Just get your pry tool, create yourself a little opening here, and get this inserted, and just give it a little pry, just like that. So it's a little clip that touches there, and the rest you can just pull right out. But yeah, same thing. This little clip-on attaches there, and that should be pretty it. Moving on to these side panels. So this one should be just clips that you just pull out, and then this one's gonna have a screw on the inside. So you have to remove this one first before removing this. And this one you could probably just pull out by hand. And yeah, it's just those clips on the inside. And then you can see there's a bolt, 3 bolts for that handle. So we'll just take that out real quick. See how all this just comes right out. Just clips. And I'll show you the bottom. So this moves super easy. You kind of just lift this up, and that tab is just underneath. And so that's all removed now. Now we just take out these 3 bolts. So this is all one part. Attaches to the floor right here. There's an end, then one end over there, which is underneath that trim, so I'll remove that real quick. So these are gonna be a size 10mm, and so we'll just go with the ratchet and just remove these out. With all those removed, this should just slide right out, just like that. Just one more clip on the inside. And same thing for the other side. So yeah, same thing. You're just gonna go with your pry tool, remove this part, and then take the bolts out for this one. So. That comes right out, and then remove these bolts. And just like that, should be able to just pull this right out. That's it. Now everything should look something like this. Pretty much done. Now we just got to take these ones out. Alright, so these are really simple. All you gotta do is just give them a little tug, and the clips should just come loose. Just like that. So the clips are inside, and that's all we need. We don't really take everything out. We just gotta loosen it so the headliner can come out flush. So we'll do the same thing on the other side. Now if you wanted to remove this whole thing, all you gotta do is just pull on the tabs here, and all the clips should come loose. And then just worry about the seat belt and taking everything out. So I'm not gonna do that, but if you wanted to, you could do that. So I'm gonna work on the other side now. One last step before you take out the headliner, you just gotta take these door trim off and do the same for all 4 sides. Alright, so now that all these are removed on all 4 doors, you don't have to remove them all, just the top. One last thing we're going to do is remove this passenger seat, just because on every vehicle, or at least most vehicles, the headliner is going to come out through the passenger rear door. So this is where the headliner is going to come out. So we're going to be taking out this seat, and I'll show you how to do that. It's super simple. Alright, to remove this seat, it's going to be super simple. All you got to do is remove these 2 bolts in the back. To do that, all you need is a ratchet and an E16 socket. So this is what the bolt looks like. So yeah, the same for both sides. These bolts can be kind of tricky to remove, just because they get a lot of rust and they use thread locker on them. So if yours are being really stubborn, just watch a YouTube video how to loosen these up and get these right out. This one gave me a little bit of trouble, but got these two out, and now to work on the front. These front bolts are a little bit different, so I will be using a 5/8 long socket to remove them. Here's what that looks like, and just lift that behind. So, time to do this one now. This bolt actually got stuck to my socket and I can't get it out, so I'm going to put some WD-40 on it to get it out, so it's kind of funny. Oh, I got it out. Now time to take out the seat. Alright, to remove the seat, all you do is push this all the way forward, roll this forward, and I'll show you another angle right now. Alright, so all you're going to do is lift it up and take it out. On some chairs there's going to be some electrical components that you have to remove, so all you do is just lift it up and then just disconnect the main clip, the main harness, and same thing, pick it up and remove it. Alright, just like that, everything is done. All we gotta do is just take the headliner out, so I'll just time up this part. Alright, so once the headliner's down, it should look something like this. There's a bunch of wires that are glued to the top that you can just easily remove. It doesn't look like we need to unclip anything major other than the speaker right here, which is super easy. It's the same thing. You just lift up that tab with the flathead. I'll do it right now, actually. So yeah, like I was saying, you remove this by lifting this tab up, just like that, and just pulling it out. So just like that, that's how it's out. Now you just got to go all around and just remove all this wiring all over. It's all just glued down, so you just lift it up and it should be good. It looks like this speaker was the last connection. Everything else is loose, so nothing else is attached to the headliner. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out from the rear passenger door, and I'll show you how to do that. The last thing you want to do is crease your headliner, so you want everything to be out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of this off and move the seat in a way that allows more space for the headliner to go through. The way this is going to work is this bottom one is going to come out through here. We're going to lift that top one up to this corner and just slide it out that way. So just like that, we have that bottom corner coming out the end. We have this top corner going to be coming out this corner, and then that's why we had to remove the chair, so we can have this big space right here. Like that. Alright, so that's how you remove a headliner off of the 2006 Chevy Silverado. Now I'm going to move on to the Black Suede Headliner fabric. Alright, so for the suede headliner fabric, this is the tools I'll be using. First off, I'll be using this suede. I'll leave a link in the bio for the type I'm using. I'm not sponsored by them, it's just I've been doing this for 3 years and I really like their product. So, and you'll need 2 cans of headliner adhesive. I like the 3M. Clamps are not necessary, but they're pretty convenient to have. So I've got a couple of those. And you're gonna need a knife with a bunch of extra razors because they'll go dull really quick. But yeah, I think that'll be all. And I'll show you how to do that. All right, before we do anything, we need to make sure all the the trim pieces are removed. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these pieces. The way you remove this is you just take off this tab, and that should come off, and then take off this tab just by sliding it underneath. And should be good. The trim should come right out. Now to do the speaker. It looks like the speaker's just clipped on, so we're just going to get our pry tool. We're going to get underneath. We're just going to pull it right off. And that speaker just pops right through. So now that all the trim pieces are removed, we're going to go ahead and remove all this foam. It really serves no purpose, and it's just in the way. So we're just going to get rid of all of the foam. Should come off relatively easy. You just get underneath and pull it right off. And that's it. Do the rest. Alright, so now that all that foam is removed, it's ready for suede, so we just flip it over now. Alright, so before we put the suede, we just want to examine it, and we want to look for any major divots in the headliner. So a lot of headliners vary, but this one doesn't. There's a little bit of divot right here. We just have to look out for that. But other than that, it's relatively flat, and so we'll just go ahead and start planning out the suede headliner. Alright, so black suede can be very, very easy to get dirty. So make sure you have a clean surface, clean hands, and while you're doing this, and we move on to the next step. Alright, so now that the suede is on, you want to make sure that every edge has some room left over on the tops and bottoms, and make sure that it all covers on each side. And once that's done, then you flip one side over, and I prefer to start with the back. So let's do that. Alright, so now what you're going to do, once this is folded back and measured out where you want it to be, you're going to start spraying both on the headliner and the fabric, but not too much because the spray can leak through the headliner fabric and it'll leave some stains, and it's really tough to get this adhesive off of the fabric, so you want to be mindful of that. But when you spray it on, you want to leave it for about like 20 seconds before it's actually sticky and it's not wet anymore. So you're just going to apply an even coat like this, being mindful not to get inside of the fabric, both on the headliner and the fabric. Also, the headliner can should be warm, cannot be cold, or else it's not going to work as well. So just be mindful of that as well. But yeah, something like this. Since this is your first coat, you want to be mindful and make sure it's evenly spread out. So kind of let that sit for a little bit, and then just go quickly from each side and applying pressure with your hands. And I'm going to do that real quick. Alright, so what I was doing there is I was putting my hand in the center and pushing it forward and outward like that. And just kind of repeat that on both sides until it's evenly distributed. You want to make sure that there's no markings, no creases. Make sure it's all flush, and kind of just repeat that process. So I'm just going to get the can and put a small amount. Nothing crazy. Kind of evenly distribute it everywhere you can. And you typically want to do this outdoors because it's a pretty strong scent, and you probably need to wear a mask as well, but that's alright. that should be good. Now I'm going to go in and put pressure on the headliner fabric. Just finished applying the last coat. Now I'm going to put the whole headliner down. Now that this side is done, we're going to flip this over and do this side now. And this dries pretty quick, so you don't have to worry about letting it sit or anything. Alright, I just finished up attaching the suede. Now I gotta flip it over and finish up all these ends, and I'll show you how to do that real quick. Alright, so now that everything's attached, we're gonna go in and remove all this excess suede. We're gonna make some relief cut marks right here, and with all these openings we're gonna put marks in them as well. And then along the edges we're just gonna go and cut relief lines along the edges, making sure to leave the entire headliner covered. And yeah, just cutting off all this trim. And then same thing with this, any hole, just put relief marks all over. And I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, here's what that looks like. So I made relief cuts pretty much everywhere. And now I'm going to go in and spray the adhesive and reattach everything like that. Make sure when you cut it that you leave a lot of extra, and then we'll go back again and trim it again. So this is just the first trim. So, and make sure to replace your blade whenever it gets dull, just to minimize the risk of injury. But I went through 2 blades, just make sure it's sharp. But yeah, I'm gonna go in and spray the adhesive and put everything on the headliner. I'll show you what that looks like right now. So I'm done with the edges now, and everything's nice, tight, and secure. Now I'm going to move on to the center console and the light. This is what it should look like at this point. I put little relief cuts all over the edge so it can go pretty flush around the edge. All over the sun visor holes. Open that up. All over the edges as well. So now we're going to go in and we're going to trim all this extra all along the headliner. And that should be the last step. So I'll skip to that part right now. Alright, this is what it looks like. All the edges are trimmed up, and that's pretty much it. Just the last step is to go around and reapply some glue where needed. Other than that, that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna go around and re-glue it and show you what it looks like. So for this one, I didn't use any clamps, just because it was a pretty easy, simple install. But if you have one that's really frustrating and moving, you kind of just put clamps on the edges where needed, and that's how you attach the suede. Also, if you have any extra or razors, make sure you dispose of them safely. I like to wrap them in electrical tape and throw them away that way so no one gets hurt. But yeah, I'll show you what the front looks like. Alright, this is what it looks like. This is the final product. If you were just going to do the suede without starlights, you're good to go install it back in. But tomorrow I'll be adding starlights to this. So I'll show you the next steps for starlights tomorrow. But yeah, this is what it looks like. Everything turned out pretty clean. There's no wrinkles. So yeah. Alright, now it's the next day, and we're going to start on the starlights. So I'll show you all the tools you need for that. So this is all I'm going to be using. So I've got some upholstery pins to poke the holes for the stars. You can get this on Amazon. I like to connect it to a drill. It makes it a little easier for me. It's not mandatory. You can poke it by hand, but I think that's a little easier. You need some electrical tape. It's nice to create a nice clean job what you do. Here's the starlights. You're definitely gonna want some Sharpies. Depending on the color of the headliner, you might need a white Sharpie, but I'm gonna be using any of these since it's a white top. Some zip ties is nice. Just clean it up and making sure it looks all good. Definitely gonna want a hot glue gun with a bunch of hot glue sticks. I've got more, but yeah, that's definitely a must. And an extension cord for the hot glue gun. And I'll show you the next steps. Alright, so with the headliner removed, I'm going to locate the area where I want to put the Starlight projector. And in this case, I'm going to put the projector right here, right behind the center light. Reason being is that there's a nice area right here, and the center light is not directly connected to the roof of the car. It's only connected to the headliner, so there's not going to be any connection there. So on the headliner, as you can see here, the light goes here and it kind of goes back up a little bit and then back up again. And so I put a square where I want the projector to be, and that shouldn't cause any issues. Alright, so here's the headliner. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a marker and we're just going to outline where we want the stars. And so here's the design that I'm going to have. And so for this specific install, I'm going to have, so there's 2 projectors, and I'm going to have only one projector for the cross. And for both of them, they're all going to be surrounding as well. So I'll show you what that looks like right now. So here I split up the headliner into 4 different quadrants. So we're going to split up the branches of wires into 4 different quadrants. Here we're going to put the projector here facing that way. And so I'll show you how to organize all the lights, and then we're going to have this cross in the center. So the next step is to go ahead and start putting dots everywhere, marking for where you're going to drill in the headliner. And just depends on how many stars you have, that's how many dots you put. And so I'm going to put roughly around 200 stars on the cross, and so I'm going to do the rest surrounding. So I'll do that right now. Alright, so I went ahead and put dots everywhere along the headliner, evenly spaced out, just to represent the surrounding stars. These green X's are going to mark the shooting stars, so we'll do that first. So I've got 5 total sets of shooting stars, and there's 12 individual stars. So I've got 1 set right there, 1 over there, 1 over here, and I'm going to have 2 underneath the cross going up like that. And so now the next step is to go ahead and start drilling the holes. I'm going to center this paper out and glue it on, and then start drilling around the cross, and I'll show you how to do that next. One thing to note if you're doing designs like this is the way to orient it. So I want it so that when you look up, one thing I want to note before you start drilling, and if you have a design, that make sure that you orient it the right way. So for the cross, I want it so that if you're in the driver or passenger seat, that you look up and it's facing towards you. Same thing with lettering. Also with lettering, make sure it's inversed. Here I don't have to inverse anything because it's a cross. But if you have any sort of design, make sure that you inverse it and flip it the correct way. So make sure you get that done. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start drilling. Alright, so I just got done finished drilling all the holes. So here's what that looks like. For all the holes that I put for the surrounding stars, I drilled right next to every dot just so it's easier for me to see. And for all the shooting stars, I put the holes directly on the X. And then for the cross over here, I went ahead and did the outside and the inside outline, and then the shooting stars right here. And so it should be good just to remove this now, and the cross should be underneath, and it should be pretty easy to install the stars. So the next step is to glue on the projector and start outlining where you want the stars. So I'll show you what that looks like right now. So before we do anything with the headliner, I'm just going to show you what's inside the box. So with the box, it comes with all the strands for the starlights. It comes with a dual projector. So this is going to have 2 strands of starlights going through with a motor inside. It's going to come with a wireless remote, but also can connect to your phone directly, so you don't really need this. Comes with the wires to power them. Here is the Starlight projector, and then the Starlight strands, or the shooting star strands. So these come already like tangled, so I'll show you an easy way to untangle these. So first off, you want to put the screws in the screw holes for the projector, not all the way, just very loose. And then you want to take this out of the plastic and start putting these projectors in these holes, and you're going to want to tighten them with a Phillips screwdriver. So I got that done, and this is what it should look like. You want these to be very, very tight because you're going to be pulling these and creating tension, and you want these to be very secure, and so they don't fall out. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim a lot of this because I'm not going to use all of it. They give you a lot of extra, so I'm going to go ahead and trim it and then start organizing it. So I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so I'm measuring out how much I need. This is where I need to cut, and so it doesn't look like much, but it's going to save you a bunch of hassle later on when you're trying to untangle these. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. It's nice to have one of these cutters to just snip it in one go. Also, having these zip tie cutters and a bunch of zip ties handy is very useful, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to start separating these strands by their projector and then start zip tying them together. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and show you what it looks like. Alright, so here's what it should look like. I've got all the strands connected to each other, so they're not in a tangled mess. I've got all of them organized. One thing I noticed when I was doing that is that the packaging says that it's 5 individual pieces, but actually there's 8 individual pieces for each projector, so it's a mistake from the company, but we're going to go ahead and add on some shooting stars onto the headliner so we can put all 8 of them on the headliner. So the customer gets some free shooting stars, which is nice. Alright, so I went ahead and added the extra shooting stars. I did one long one here, so 24, so I'm going to do 2 of each on this one. And so I'm going to go ahead, glue down the projector, connect all the shooting stars, and I'll explain everything how I did it once I do it. So I'll show you what that looks like. I hope this video goes viral so I can invest in some proper filming equipment and a tripod, because right now I'm just using the windowsill of this pickup. So yeah, anyways, I'm gonna get back to work. Alright, so this is how everything looks like after the shooting stars have been installed. So what I did is I went ahead and glued down the projector to the headliner just to secure it in place, but this is temporary. Later on we're going to lift this up and so we can put the stars underneath. So after that, I started with one strand at a time and just went around and then go one by one to install the shooting stars. I went ahead and zip tied them all down, make sure they're super secure and tight and snug, that it's not going to go anywhere. I glued them down and used them as anchor points for each other. So like this one I glued on first, and then I used that as an anchor point to secure this and glued these ones down, same as these. So everything is nice and clean. You want to follow the trail that you did so you don't leave a big mess. So it should be super clean like this, super tight. So now everything is done and we should be good to move on to the actual projector. My phone keeps overheating, so I'm gonna go inside and film the rest of it. So alright, this is the last day of the install. I still need to attach the surrounding stars and glue them in place. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that and put the phone down while I work. Alright, so now all the stars are in place. Now I'm going to go around and tighten them all down and zip tie them together to make it a little organized and clean. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue them all in. So I'll show you what that looks like right now. Alright, so I just finished up zip tying it down and gluing it, and that's pretty much it for the Starlight Headliner. So I'm going to walk you through everything I did. First of all, this cross section ended up taking about 400 stars. So the surrounding is about 600. And so this is how I separated everything from the projector. So I've got only one projector hooked up to the cross, and that's this one. And that's the majority of these. And then I have the remaining of it goes surrounding, which was really very much. There's only about 40 stars, so I put about 10 of each into each quadrant. And then this one is the main of the surrounding stars, and so I kind of split it up into each quadrant. So I have half going in this half of the headliner, and then the other half going over there, and then kind of split it up in half again and kind of organize that way. I guess there's a bunch of different ways you can organize the layout for how you install the stars, but this is just the way I do it. And I followed the anchor points for the shooting stars to hook up the main projector lights. One thing you want to look out for is the height of some of these. So like make sure that it's not going to cause any problems when you install it back in. So everything's kind of flat to the headliner. Everything's super secure. Make sure to, when you glue it too, to put like a decent amount so you don't want them falling out. Also, with the projectors, make sure that these two are close together because they use the same wire for power. So, and I'll show you the electrical steps later. But I think that's pretty much it for the Starlights. It's pretty tedious. Yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. Now I'm gonna go move on to the black paint for the interior trim, and that should be pretty simple, so I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so this is all the interior trim that I'm going to paint, and so what I'm going to do now is disassemble it and only take the parts that I want to paint. So I'm going to take out this light and only use this plastic. Same thing here, I'm just going to disassemble it and I'll show you how to do that. So this light is pretty simple. All you got to do is put your flathead in here and kind of just pop it out. Just like that. Should just come right out. Just like that. So now that the plastic is off, now just to get to this plastic, we just flip it over and we see there's 5 main tabs. There's going to be 1 right here and then 4 along the sides. So we're just going to go pry that off and take this part off, and then we're going to be left with this 10 piece of plastic. So I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, and here's what we're left with. We're going to go ahead and paint this, and so this is pretty simple to remove. So we're going to put that aside. And now we're going to disassemble this one. So actually looking at this piece further, it looks like it's all one piece and it can't really be removed. But these plastic pieces that go over the lights can be removed. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap them in plastic and then put them back in and then just spray over it as one piece. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'm kind of just using what I have so far, so I'm going to put this plastic piece, and I cut this Ziploc bag into these little corners, and so I'm going to put it inside of the plastic like that, and I'm going to wrap it tight, so something like that, and then I'm going to get all of this excess in the back, and then I'm going to use my hot glue gun just to seal it up to melt the plastic together, and it should be good just to pop back in like that, and that should be good so I can paint over it and then remove it later on. Alright, here's what that looks like. It's a little unprofessional, but it'll work. So we're going to put these back in and start painting. Here's what that looks like. Everything's snug, all wrapped in plastic, so we're going to paint over everything and this should be good. The paint I'll be using is specific for the interior trim and fabric, so vinyl and fabric, and it's black, so I'll leave a link for this in the bio, but you can pick this up at really any auto shop, and they come in a bunch of different colors, so yeah, I'll be using that, and I'll be painting all this trim right now. Alright, so if you've never done any sort of spray painting before, I'll give you some basic tips. So when you're doing it, you never want to start on the item you want to paint. You want to start from the outside and spray out and just do some layers like that, and you don't want to put too much or else it's going to start dripping, so you want to do about 3 coats. So the first coat's going to be very light, let that dry, and once that's dry, do a second coat and then a third coat, and that should be good. So we're going to do that for all of these items. So yeah, I'll do the first coat right now. Alright, I just finished up the first coat. We're going to let that dry for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to rotate it around and do some other coats onto it. So that's what that should look like. So yeah, I'll check back in and do a second coat. Alright, now that it's all dry, I just went ahead and moved them around so we can do another coat. These move around too, so I went ahead and moved it to the side so we can paint underneath on this area. So I'm going to go ahead and put a second coat, let it dry, and then do a third coat, and we should be good. Alright, so while the paint is drying on the interior trim, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to do the electrical work for the Starlights. So I'll show you what you need and all the tools you need. So here I have everything I need. First, what comes in the box is this AC power supply for the Starlights, which we won't be needing since we'll be using direct current stuff since we're working in a car. This wire is to supply power to the main projector and the shooting star projector, and so this is what power supply to this unit. And if you don't have very much electrical knowledge, I wouldn't suggest working on your fuse box because you could really mess it up if you don't know what you're doing. And so you can just use the cigarette lighter, but me personally, I don't like I like to see visible wires, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that and use the fuse box to power the Starlights. So that's what comes in the box. This is all my stuff, which you're probably going to need if you're going to do the fuse box as well. So first you need a fuse tester. This is just to check which fuse you want to tap into. Then a spool of wire is nice, just to make extensions. So I have here just a positive and negative 12 gauge wire. Then some crimpers and wire splitters, just to work on the electrical stuff. And then I have here a lot of fuse taps. I probably don't need that much, just the one that is compatible for your vehicle. So electrical tape is nice to clean up some of your work. This is for the paint. And then a soldering kit, just to make sure everything is secure and done correctly. So that's really all you need, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what the next steps are. Alright, that second coat is done drying, so I went ahead and readjusted everything and we'll add one last coat. So yeah, same thing, kind of just go along, spray everything in, all the finishing touches. Make sure you get it pretty even. Also, you're probably going to be wanting to wear a mask while doing this. You don't want to inhale all the fumes. All right, that should do it. So I'm gonna let that dry and work on the electrical stuff while this dries. So the first thing you want to do before you do anything here is you want to go into the truck or whatever vehicle you're working on and locate the interior fuse box. And every car's a little bit different, so I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. So when you're trying to look for the interior fuse box, some main areas you want to look for is the side panels on both the passenger and driver's side of the doors. Those are typically where they're located, but some of the newer vehicles, they're located on the bottom right of the passenger side, or they can be up here, same thing over there. So kind of just anywhere in this front area, just look out for that. So on this case, it's going to be for the interior fuse box for the 2006 Chevy Silverado. It's going to be on the driver's side door panel. So I'll go show you that right now. So before you start taking anything out, you just want to examine and look around. And here, you're looking for this symbol right here. So this shows the fuse box location. So we're just going to take this panel off, and it comes off super easy. And then that's the interior fuse box, which we will be tapping into. And it looks like we'll be needing some regular fuses. And so I'll show you what that looks like. So there's a bunch of different fuses in there, but they're all the same size. So typically the older vehicles would be using this size of fuse tap. Some of the newer ones will be using mini fuses. So kind of just get this according to what you're working with. So now we're gonna go ahead and now that we have the fuse tap verified, we'll go ahead and do the electrical work for the Starlight projectors. So I'll show you what's the next steps. So now that we know what fuse tap we're going to be using, we're going to look at this wire, and this is clearly not long enough to reach from the projector all the way to the fuse tap area, or the interior fuse box. So we're going to go ahead and cut this cigarette lighter off, and we're going to add some wire to it and make it a little longer. And if you don't know how to do that, I'll show you how to do that right now. So I went ahead and snipped this off and stripped the wire back. So I used this wire stripper, and it is a size 10. So I went ahead and gave me plenty of room to work with. And so we're going to go ahead and strip these wires now and do the same thing for these ones so we can connect it. So I went ahead and stripped these small wires, and I used this wire stripper, and it was a size 22. So, and then I also went ahead and cut myself probably around, like, I want to say 2 meters of spare wire. And so now I'm going to go ahead and twist these together and solder them together. So I'll show you how to do that. Alright, so I went ahead and twisted these wires together, so the negative with the negative. And so I'm going to go ahead and use my soldering kit to apply some solder and make sure it's super secure and it's not going to detach or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then wrap this with electrical tape, and then do the power supply, or the power terminals. So I'll do that right now. Alright, so that's what that should look like. I put a couple layers of electrical tape because you do not want to have a short. So now I'm going to go ahead and intertwine these wires and do the same thing. Alright, so that's what it looks like, and that's how you do some simple wiring. So we're going to do the same thing for the fuse tap on the power end. So this fuse tap comes with this unit to crimp the wires together, which you could do that. I just don't like it, so I'm just going to snip that off, strip this wire, same thing, and then do the same thing to the positive terminal, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I went ahead and stripped the fuse tap and this positive terminal, so I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, kind of just twist them together, put solder in it, electrical tape, and it should be good. And so I also separated the negative and positive to give me a lot of space to work with in the negative for the ground. Alright, so I got that done, and it's time to move on to the headliner. So I'm going to bring that out and show you what the next steps are. Alright, so I have the headliner out, and since we have the wiring all done, we're just going to go ahead and connect it and zip tie the wires along the headliner, and then coming down the driver's side, because the fuse box is on the driver's side, so it just come down here. So we're just going to trail the wires following all the way here, and I'll show you what that looks like right now. Alright, so I got the wires connected to both of the projectors. I got it all trailed down to the passenger side, and that's pretty much it for the Starlights. So I think it's ready to install back in. So I'll show you that process right now. Now that the headliner's in, we're just gonna go ahead and install everything back in. Same process how we took it out. So first I'm gonna put the chair back in, and we're gonna start putting it back together. Alright, so now that the chair is installed back in, we're going to go ahead and start to reattach all the wiring again. If I can remember correctly, all it was the speaker over there, and so we're just going to install that back in. Also, make sure to install the handle before you put it up. So yeah, just make sure you got all the wiring done. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done. Alright, so to install the speaker, it's super easy. This gray piece goes on top, and this black piece is going to go on the bottom, and it's going to clip right on to this area. So it might be a little hard with the suede, but it's definitely possible. So just keep going and you'll get it, and then just clip the electrical component back in. So the black piece for the speaker should fit in just like that, and the gray piece should just clip on just right there. And it should snap in place, should be pretty secure, shouldn't move anywhere. So now just need to attach the electrical component. And also this should be able to spin freely like that, and the other piece on the bottom should be able to stick. So I'm gonna go ahead and attach the electrical component. This is the electrical component for this, and it should be super easy. You just slide it in and it should just snap into place. Just like that. And give it a little tug, it's not gonna budge. So that's done. Now to move on to the other electrical stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and attach the mirror piece just because it's not directly attached to the roof of the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and attach this and start probably with the sun visors after. Alright, so the way that you install the light back in is you take off the clear plastic, and so you install this one first just because this includes one arm. So you're going to install this back in like that, and then once that's in, then you install this arm back in, and it should go like that, if you can see. So that should fit snug. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So now that this arm is in, we're going to install the plastic, and that should just fit right in there, which I'm going to do right now. Alright, and just like that, it should be in, and the lights should turn on perfectly fine. So everything is snug, and time to move on to the rest of it. Next thing I'm going to do is install these handles back in. So I'm going to bolt them back in and do it on both sides, and then put in the trim piece right here. So I'm going to do it to both sides right now. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is install this door this headliner handle back in. And I did go ahead and went ahead and spray painted this black because I might have forgotten. But yeah, so it's just going to go in like that and putting this trim pieces back in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Alright, so here's what it should look like. So you first put it in here, and then see if it'll focus, and kind of slide it this way to lock it in place. Same thing here, kind of slide it that way to lock it in place. And so the handle should be pretty fixed, shouldn't move. You don't attach these ones yet. We'll do that when we install the headliner back in completely. So we'll hold on to these. But now that that's done, I'm gonna go ahead and put the headliner back up. Alright, now to install this side panel. To tell which one is which, the longer side. So this is for the left one. So the longer side will be towards the front of the vehicle or front of the truck, and the short side will be towards the back. So that's really the only difference. But it should just go underneath these floor panels, and then everything should just click in, just like that, snap in place. So I'll go ahead and clean everything up and show you what that looks like on both sides. I'm really happy with how this turned out. The plastic really covered the paint very well, and it came out pretty clean. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and install this now. All right, so now that the side pillars are installed, the headliner is looking pretty good right now. So we're gonna go ahead and install this center console. One thing I do want to note is, I know the stars are really annoying to deal with and probably to watch as well, but you really don't want to trim them until after everything is done. Mainly because you don't want the headliner to be moving around and kind of pulling on the lights above, so you don't lose any stars. So you really don't want to trim them before installing the headliner. That's really like the last step. So we're gonna go ahead and install the center console. All right, so to install the center console, all we're gonna need is that Phillips screwdriver to install that one screw, and then the two clips are gonna attach right here and over there, if you can see it. So we're gonna go ahead. First of all, we're gonna actually connect the electrical components to the center console. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so now that the electrical components are installed back in place, we're gonna go ahead and clip it in and then screw it back in. So I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so now that with that clipped in, I'm gonna go ahead and screw in that screw, and we should be good. And make sure to test the lights first. Make sure they're working, which they are. And then just a reminder, it's the screw, it's the long one, and it's the Phillips screw. So I'll go ahead and install it right now. All right, center console is in. Now we're gonna move on to the rear view mirror. So all we need to do to install this mirror back in is first attach this electrical component. See if it'll focus. There we go. That one, and we're gonna connect it right there, if you guys can see it. All right, so with that clipped in, all we gotta do is just slide it into its holder, and that's it. That's really it. As long as it's secure and tight, that should be good right there. And kind of just tuck the wires in as much as you can. So, and you should be good. And we're gonna move on now to probably the sun visors now. All right, so we're gonna start with the sun visor clips. If we remember correctly, they're gonna be let's see, the CRT15 size. So those are gonna be these small ones, and they're a little bit larger star tool. So we're gonna go ahead and install these back. We should have had a hole for the suede, so right there. All right, just like that, it should be installed, and make sure that it is faced the right way. So yeah, it's supposed to be facing that way. That's the correct way. And now we're gonna go ahead and install the sunroof, or the sun visor, and then we're gonna do the same for both sides. All right, so when you're installing the sun visor, make sure that it is clipped in so it's secure. And when you screw it in, it's gonna be the size C10 or CRV T10, and the screws for those look like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and install that right now. All right, so this is what it should look like, and make sure when you're tightening it that you go in increments, so you slowly tighten all of them in a pattern. So yeah, this is done. Now let's move on to the other side. All right, so I just finished up with this, and now that both the sun visors are done, also I want to mention that I could have painted this black, but the customer said that she's going to go ahead and order these in black to make it look like more professional. So we're going to go ahead and leave that tan for now. So we're going to go ahead and finish this handle. So what you want to do for the handle is you want to peek behind the headliner and align the clips with the clips in the inside. And once that's in, you should be able to make sure you hear it click and fit in pretty well. And once that's done, you should be able to go in the inside and push these tabs in just to secure it in place. And mine came loose, so I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that's tight. So I got the handle all done, and it should be secure. You should be able to pull in it, and it should not be able to come out. So now we're gonna go on to these pillars. All right, so this should be pretty easy to install. All you gotta do is just slip it in, align the clip, and push it in. Just like that, the pillar should be flush and secure, and we can go around the edges and tuck it all in. Same with this wire. But yeah, should be pretty stuck in there. So now we're gonna move on to the other side. All right, so before we install this pillar back in, this is our wire for the Starlights, and so we're gonna trace it down all the way down here and tuck it in, and then we're gonna have it sitting right now for the power, but we'll do that later. I also cut like way too much wire, so but that's not a problem. So yeah, we're just gonna make sure we tuck this in and then install the pillar back in. All right, so now that we finished the pillars in the front, the last thing to do now is to go back and install these clips. To install these clips, it's super easy. Just locate the holes that you made in the headliner and just stick them through, and it should already be aligned, and you should be able to clip it back in. Let's see if I can do it right now. Right there. So should hear something like this, and that should be it. So I'm gonna do the same thing for this side. All right, so everything is installed, everything is done. So now what's left to do is the electrical work. And so this, you're gonna wanna pick a 10 amp fuse. And so you're gonna wanna pick a fuse that turns on with the truck and turns off with the truck. And something that is not very important, so that if it does blow, then the truck itself wouldn't, have any risk of failing. So we're gonna check the fuses with this fuse checker, and what we're gonna do is attach this part to ground, and then just check all these 10 amp fuses and see which one we want. All right, so when you're looking for a fuse, you wanna first check all the fuses when the truck is off, and then check them all when they're on. Then you want to find the one that turns on with the truck and turns off with the truck. So in this case, I'm going to use, let's see if I can even, there we go. So it's connected to the fuse right there. And then here we see that it is on. It says it's at 9.8 volts. So now we're going to go ahead and turn it off. And now it's off. So now that we found a fuse that turns off with the car, turns on with the car, we want to make sure that there's plenty of space for the fuse to have to go. And in this case, there's nothing in the way, so that is a good fuse to pull. One more thing you want to check is with the cover, you want to locate the fuse that you're trying to get, and then you want to search up what that fuse is. And if it's an important fuse, you probably don't want to pull that one. But if it's something like an O2 sensor or something that the truck really can drive without it, that's a good one to pull. So I'm gonna go ahead and search up that fuse and see what it is. So after looking into the cover, we see that the fuse that we thought was gonna be good ended up being the TBC ignition O, which is actually a very crucial fuse. So we're gonna go ahead and pick a different fuse. And we have a lot to play with, so I went ahead and went through them and found this top one. I don't know if you can see it right there. And it is off right now, so we're gonna go ahead and turn on the truck in auxiliary mode, and we see that it's on. So, and we go over at our panel, and we see that it is called TBC accessory, which is perfect because that is specifically for like non-important accessories. So we're gonna go ahead and tap into that fuse. So the way a fuse tab works is that it connects one fuse and splits it into two different fuses. So the bottom one is going to be where we're going to replace that fuse. So that's going to be where the original power goes, and then the top one is going to be for our Starlights. So we're going to need a 10 amp fuse to input into there. So I'm going to go get one right now. So here's a 10 amp fuse, and the way a fuse works is it gets power supply from one tooth and then travels through this little wire in the center and then outputs through this tooth. And so if there's too many amps that are flowing through the fuse, that little wire in the middle is going to break, and it's going to protect the car from getting damaged. So this is a pretty important step, and so we're going to just put this fuse for the Starlights on the top tooth right there. So just like that, it should look something like that. And before we connect this to power, we want to make sure that our stars are connected to ground. So we're going to go ahead and find a ground, and we have a perfect spot right here to connect to ground. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, so I went ahead and loosened that nut. Ended up being a 10 millimeter nut. So now I'm going to go ahead and strip this wire and then connect it to ground. All right, so with the ground connected now, we're now going to pull out the fuse that we were wanting to pull out, the SEC accessory, and we're going to want to put it into the fuse tap right there. All right, so with that done, now we want to place the fuse tap where you took out the original fuse. So after attaching the fuse tap, it should look something like this. We replace the fuse with the fuse tap, and we have ground connected right there. So theoretically, if we turn on the vehicle, the lights should turn on. And there they are. You can see a little bit. Let's see. Yep. So now you can see all the lights are on. So that leaves the last step to start trimming all of them. Well, I guess before we start trimming, we gotta clean up this mess. So I'm gonna go ahead and bundle this up together, zip tie it together, and make it clean, and install everything back in. Now with all of our wires cleaned up, we go ahead and install this back in, and it just clicks in like that. All right, so I already went ahead and started trimming some of the stars, and I'll show you what it looks like right now. Just gotta turn it into auxiliary mode. And that's what it looks like right now. So when you trim the stars, you want to make sure that your flush cutter tool is flat with the headliner and then kind of angled. Let's see if I can show you. So you want to go at it at an angle and then make sure it's kind of like, you can still kind of feel it. I don't know if you hear that, but it shouldn't be enough to cut your hand, but you should still be able to feel a little bit. The reason being is that with suede, during hot days, it tends to rise slightly, so you don't want the stars to sink into the roof. So you want to leave a little bit of extra just in case. But other than that, I'm just going to keep going and put it on time lapse for the snipping. Alright, so I just finished up this order for this customer and it turned out pretty good. So I'm going to go around and taking some after pictures and photos and videos. I'm going to ask the customer to send me videos at night so I can show you guys what it looks like at night, but I'm going to go ahead and show you everything it looks like right now. I'll probably skip to a part where I'm working in the office and editing this video, and it's anything else that I want to say, probably like showing you guys how to use the app and other stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and start filming the after shots. Alright, so this is the day after the 2006 Chevy Silverado installation, and I'm driving right now to Salt Lake for another installation. This was a kind of last minute job, so I didn't get very much sleep. I just barely scheduled the install last night at like 11, and then so I got up this morning at 3:30 and left my house. Should be set to arrive at the customer's house at 7 o'clock in the morning. Right now it is 5:38. So I kind of just want to show you guys what's like a realistic time frame from start to finish to work on one of these installations. For this installation, it's going to be a 1300 piece with 2 shooting star kits and a Black Suede Headliner fabric on a BMW. So yeah, if everything goes well, I should be done around 2 in the morning. So about, what is that, like 19 hours total? But that's if everything goes well. I got only 3 hours of sleep last night, so it might be a little slower. But yeah, I would film a tutorial on this vehicle, but I really just don't have time for it. So I'm just gonna check back in with you guys after I finish the installation, and I might film some shots of me doing the installation. So that's pretty much it, and so I'll just check back in with you guys after I'm done.
Like the shooting stars they do?
Yes.
Yeah, I know you see people like doing that shit to their cars and shit. Who's first? Junior, no? Vamos a pelear primero aquí, ¿no? Vamos más.
Alright, so I just finished the installation. I left the customer's house at 11 o'clock, which totals my installation time to 16 hours, which is a lot better than I thought I was going to be honest. So yeah, everything went well. He loved it. I loved it. Everything went great, very smooth. I tried my best to record some footage for you guys so you guys can watch. I think it turned out pretty good. So yeah, I'm on my way back home, and I should arrive around 2:30 in the morning. So, and then probably tomorrow I'll just go to the office and start editing this video, and probably give you guys some more information then. So until then, see ya.